Exodus, the second chapter. I want to read a few scriptures there about a wonderful mother. Exodus, the second chapter, beginning with the first verse. Now a man of the house of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the banks of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her slave girl to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" "Yes, go," she answered. And the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So the woman took the baby and nursed him. When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, "I drew him out of the water." Mother's Day is always a hard sermon to preach for me. Number one, I'm not a mom, and I've always felt a mother could stand here and preach a Mother's Day sermon far better than I could. So Mother's Days are always a little difficult for me. So I'll try to preach a Mother's Day sermon. I've had a mother, so I know a little bit about what it's like to have moms, but Mother's Days are usually a little difficult to preach. It's difficult because as you look around here this morning, there's a lot of different kinds of mothers. There's grandmothers, and there's great-grandmothers here. There could be single moms here. There could be adoptive moms here. There could be regular moms, whatever a regular mom is here today. So how do you preach a sermon that includes all mothers? I reviewed a lot of videos for our Mother's Day today, and I would say 9 out of 10 of those videos all had small children in them. They were really cute and nice videos, but a lot of you mothers don't have small children. And so I tried to find a video that would at least relate to all of the mothers. And also the same way with a mother from the Scripture that would relate to all mothers. If you're a great-grandmother here, you are a mother, but yet you don't have a lot of things in common with mothers who have toddlers here today. So it's sort of difficult to include all mothers into one thing. But yet there's something about this mother this morning, Moses' mother, and her name is Jochebed. We can find her name in Exodus, the 6th chapter, and also in Numbers, the 26th chapter. Her name is listed. Here in our text in Exodus, her name is not listed, but her name is Jochebed. And there's one thing about Jochebed, I think, that is a characteristic of all mothers today, regardless of your age, regardless if you have great-grandchildren or little toddlers. There's something about Jochebed that I think all mothers can relate to, and it's this. Jochebed fully entrusted her child to God's safekeeping. Let me say that again. Jochebed fully entrusted her child to God's safekeeping. Now, if you are a mother with toddlers, you can entrust your toddlers to God's safekeeping, right? If you are a mother with adult children, you can continue to entrust your adult children to God's safekeeping. If you are a grandmother or a great-grandmother, you can continue to entrust your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren into God's safekeeping. It's so interesting over a period of time that I've noticed things. A lot of times it's amazing how important grandparents are in the life of children. A lot of times you'll see these great athletes or something, and they'll talk to them and interview them, and they'll talk about how influential their grandparents were to them. I forget his name. He was that great skier a couple of Olympics ago, the boy that did the real fast skating. I forget, it's sort of a funny name. Maybe if you know his name, if you do holler it out, you'll help us here. But anyway, I saw an interview about him, and his grandmother bought him his first pair of skates. So, regardless if you're a mother with adult children or with toddlers or small children, or great-grandmothers today, all mothers can fully entrust their child into God's hand, regardless of the kind of mother that you are. And that's what Jochebed did. We know the story here. Pharaoh has issued a decree because the Israelites have increased and the Egyptians have enslaved them. And Pharaoh has issued a decree that every Hebrew boy was to be thrown into the Nile, either to be drowned or to be devoured by the crocodiles. So that was the decree by the Pharaoh, that every Hebrew boy that was born was to be thrown into the Nile River. And the Bible teaches us that Jochebed here hid her son, who of course was Moses, hid Moses for about 3 months. And then after about 3 months, she knew she could hide him no more. And you know the story about how she made the little boat out of reeds and out of pitch and set him adrift in the Nile River. Miriam was watching from a distance, and by the providence of God, of course, this little basket went into the harbor of where Pharaoh's daughter was bathing in the Nile River. I wonder why she wasn't afraid of crocodiles. Maybe they had servants out there just to be fodder for the crocodiles. I don't know. But anyway, she was bathing in the Nile River. You know the story, how Moses was found. And isn't it wonderful how God brings things about? God was able to bring Moses back to his mother, and not only to bring Moses back to the mother, but also the Pharaoh's daughter paid her to keep Moses. It's really an interesting twist how God did that. So we see there that as Jochebed pushed that little ark out into the Nile River, she fully entrusted Moses into God's safekeeping. And every mother can do that today for their child. No matter how old the mother is, they can fully entrust their toddlers, fully entrust their adult children, fully entrust their grandchildren or their great-grandchildren into the safekeeping of God. And mothers, what greater thing can you do for your child today? What greater thing can you do than to just say, God, I totally and absolutely entrust my child into your big hands today? As I look at Jochebed today and think about her, I think about what it must have taken for her to do that. First of all, I think it took courage for Jochebed to do that. To take this little baby boy that was about 3 months old and put him in this little ark and just shove him out into the Nile River. Just think about the courage that it took for her to do that. Would you do that today? Would you take your baby and put it in a little bassinet and push it out in the Tennessee River and hope that it would find a home? Just think today, would you do that to your child? When my children were little, I wouldn't even let them walk down the street by themselves. I had to be watching them all the time. And when my grandsons are in my care, they're never out of my sight. They're never out of my sight. I couldn't think about putting them in a little boat and pushing them off down in the Tennessee River. Now, when Adam was little, I might have thought about that, putting him in a boat, pushing him off, but I didn't. I wouldn't even let my grandchildren out of my sight. Think about the courage it took for this woman to push her baby out into the Nile River. She fully entrusted Moses into the hands of God by just taking that little ark and pushing it out into the Nile River. What courage it took for her to do that. I don't know if I could do that today. And would you be able to do that today, to push your child, to put your child in that kind of danger? But the Bible teaches us that Jochebed really had courage to do that. And that's a good quality of a mother today. A mother today, I think, in our society today, in our culture today, whether it's great-grandchildren or grandchildren, adult children, or whether it's toddlers today, I think mothers need courage today in their lives. It takes a courageous mother in our culture today to raise children. It takes a courageous mother today to stand against the culture and raise children today in our society. a courageous mother, a mom that is strong, a mom that is courageous to make the right decision, a mom that has the courage maybe to go against the grain today. The children want to do something. The children may want to do this or to do that. And a mother to have the courage to go against the grain of the culture today. It takes courage today, strength today to be a mother. I believe also that as Jochebed pushed that little ark out into the river, I believe that Jochebed had a lot of faith and hope that God would guide and direct her that little ark down the river. I believe it took faith on Jochebed's part. I don't believe that she put that baby into the river to die. I don't believe she put that baby in the river to die. I believe that Jochebed put that baby in the river knowing that child would live because she had a faith and a trust in God. This woman was a wife of a Levite, and she was descended from the Levites, and the Levites were the priestly caste of the day. And so over and over, no doubt, when Jochebed was a little girl, she had watched her father, she had watched him perform priestly functions. She had watched her husband perform priestly functions. And no doubt Jochebed was ingrained in the things of God and a woman of faith and a woman of hope. I believe today that a mother today needs to have faith in God. How can a mother really raise children today? How can a mother, a grandmother, or a great-grandmother, or a mother today of adult children, how can they really be the mother that God has called them to be today without the aspect of faith and hope? Faith that God will work in the life of their child. Faith that God will guide and direct their children. My daughter and my son, of course, are older, and I still have faith and hope in them, and faith and hope in God that God will guide and direct their lives. So mothers, as we look at Jochebed, we know that Jochebed was a mother that was full of faith and full of hope. When she put that baby in the river, she had faith that that baby would live. Think about the faith that Mary had. Think about the faith that Hannah had when Hannah gave little Samuel over to the temple. Mothers that made an impact in the Bible. And I believe that mothers that make an impact today are mothers that have faith in God and hope in God that all will be right and that all will go well for their children. And they not only hope that, but they instill that faith and that hope into the lives of their children. Think about the sacrifice that Jochebed made today. Think about the great sacrifice that she did. It was a sacrifice to take that child and put that child in that little boat and push him out into the Nile. What a sacrifice that was on her part. As far as the scripture was concerned, we see that Miriam was already born. Moses had an older sister. But at the time, it doesn't say anything about Aaron being born. So maybe at this time, Moses was the only son of Jochebed. And the sacrifice that it took on her part to put that little baby into that boat. Of course, the Bible teaches us that Jochebed was able to raise that child, Moses, until he was weaned away from her. But think about Jochebed also. Jochebed, she fades from the story after Moses goes to the court. But I believe there was probably times that Jochebed, maybe she had an opportunity to be around Pharaoh's court. Or maybe she saw the prince Moses as he rode through the town. Maybe Moses rode through the settlement of the Hebrews and checking out the things that they were doing and seeing if they were supplying the right amount of bricks for Pharaoh's building projects. Maybe there was times that Jochebed saw Moses as an adult. I believe that she could have been old enough, would have been still living when this happened. And to see Jochebed seeing Moses as an adult son and knowing that she would not be able to hug him, knowing that she would not be able to love him, knowing that she would not even be able to speak to him but just to be able to see him out in society. Just think about the sacrifice that Jochebed made as she raised Moses. And then after Moses was an adult man, the sacrifice that she had to endure. Jochebed probably did not live, of course, to see the Exodus, because Moses was an elderly man at the time of the Exodus. But we have no idea of the sacrifice that Jochebed made when she put Moses into the river. Think about mothers today, the sacrifices that they make, the sacrifices that you as mothers make this morning. Think about, I don't think that you can be a mother without sacrificing. I believe that the word sacrifice and the word mother are synonymous with each other. How terrible it is to have a selfish mom. How terrible it would be to have a mother that was looking out for, number one, and really not sacrificing for her children. Motherhood and sacrifice, I believe, are synonymous with one another. Mothers, as mothers today, I'm not telling you anything. I'm not preaching to you anything that you don't already know. Think about the sacrifice that you have done for your children over the years. A financial sacrifice, or a sacrifice of time, or a sacrifice of a lot of things. Think about the sacrifices that you gave. As I get older, I try to comprehend in some way the sacrifices of my own mother when I was growing up. As I've told you many times, there was 5 of us boys and one girl that was born later on, but 5 boys in this family. And my dad didn't make a lot of money. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And I know there were probably times that my mom would like to have had a nice pair of shoes, or she would not like to have had a nice dress, or maybe a nice string of pearls or something like that. But she probably says, I can't buy any pearls because I got to buy Lee a pair of shoes. Nobody wore out shoes more than I did. My mom made me take off my good brogans in the spring and put me in little old flip-flops, and made me wear those for the summer so that my shoes would last. I'm sure there's times that she would like to have bought a nice dress or something, but she had to buy me a pair of shoes. And if she didn't buy me a pair of shoes, there was always Mike to buy a pair of shoes for. And then there was Ronnie, and then there was Timmy, and then there was Eric. So I know the sacrifices that she made for us when we were growing up. And like I say, mothers, I'm not telling you anything today. You know about the sacrifices that you make as a child. Think about this great sacrifice of Jochebed. Going to the palace when Moses was about 3 or 4 years old, and giving her beautiful son to these Egyptians, and with the possibility of never ever seeing that child again. With the possibility of that child never ever calling her mother. The tremendous sacrifice of Jochebed. Think about the sacrifices of your mothers. Maybe your mother has passed away. The tremendous sacrifice that she has made for you. Motherhood cannot exist, I don't think, today without the element of sacrifice. Final point about Jochebed today. Think about the reward that Jochebed received. I'm sure a lot of the reward Jochebed never knew about, but think about the reward that this woman received. She became the mother of the great liberator. She was a woman, when you think about it, she was a woman that changed history. Her name's only mentioned twice in the Bible. But she is a woman that changed history. From when she had little Moses at home before she took him to the palace, no doubt she loved Moses, and Moses loved her, and it made an indelible impression upon Moses. But think about what Moses did. Moses is one of the greatest figures of history. Moses changed the world. The 10 Commandments have changed the world. Even though they don't like to admit it, the 10 Commandments are written across the ceiling in the Supreme Court. The 10 Commandments are everywhere. They have changed the world. Moses changed the world. And who changed Moses? The hand of Jochebed was on Moses till the day that he died. The great reward of Jochebed was to see the world changed by her son. You don't know what reward you might have with your children or your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren. By being a godly, good mother, you have no idea of the reward that might come to you because you were that godly mother. One of the saddest things, and I'll close with this, one of the saddest things in the ministry, there's always a lot of happy times, and there's always a lot of sad times. But one of the saddest times in my life as a minister was this story, and I'll never, ever forget it. The people came to my church in Ohio, and they were sort of people that were on the fringe. They never came very often, but they came occasionally. They came occasionally. And their mother was dying of lung cancer. And the mother passed away. And the daughter and son-in-law and a couple of them asked me if I would do the funeral. I had never met the lady before and asked if I would do the funeral. And I said, yeah, I'll do the funeral for you. So I didn't know the family very well, so to know the family better and to maybe get a little information about the lady before I preached her funeral, I went to the funeral home before the visiting hours to talk to the family. And the lady was laying there in a casket, and the casket was open, and I paid my respects to her and turned around to talk to the family. And I turned around, and the family was all around me. They just sort of gathered around me there. And they said, Reverend Wallace, if you say anything good about Mom, you're a liar. That's exactly what they said. If you say anything good about Mom, you're a liar. And since that day, I've often thought to myself, what a sad, sad life. To live a life and never experience the love of a mother. What a sad life. So, it makes me want to close with this. If you have a mother that's alive today, a mother that's loved you, a mother that's been good to you, call her up and love on her. Call her up and just let her know how much you love her. And if your mother has passed away, just pause during this day and thank God for your mom that's not here, for the good mom that you had, because you are a product today of who that mother is. Amen. Let's stand for prayer. Father, as we bow here this morning, thank you